Hey everyone, welcome in PrimeTime Sports, Primetime Edition. Eric and Luke back with you. And Luke was on a field trip this weekend.
Yeah.
First-hand accounts for us for both the teams we're going to be talking about today, the Chicago White Sox and, unfortunately, the Chicago Bears. So we're going to dive into that, but this is going to be heavy Bears talk, heavy Matt Nagy talk, as you suggested, Luke. I think we're both on the same page with that. And then when we get to White Sox portion, last week we talked about what should that White Sox playoff rotation look like. And since our last show, that's probably changed like 3-4 times over. This week's episode, we wanted to talk about what do we think that starting lineup should look like. So we'll dive into that at the tail end of the show. But
may have to also briefly touch on today's extracurricular activities in Detroit.
Oh, I didn't hear. I've kind of been out of the loop, so we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah.
All right. But before we dive into that, so how was your field trip there?
It was interesting. So we saw the Friday, Saturday Sox. So we saw one run in 18 innings. Thank you, Luis Robert, for the solo home run that just barely cleared the wall, but home run. And we saw the Bears or whatever that was yesterday. So it wasn't the best sports trip. And I was talking to Emily, and I'm like, that's the one problem about planning trips around sports, because you don't know how the games are going to go.
Right.
Like, you could plan a trip. Okay, you're going to go to an amusement park. Okay, maybe you won't like the rides as much as you thought, but the rides are going to be the rides. Like, you could plan a trip around going to see a national park, or going to see, some other sites. Like, the sites are going to be the sites. Like, what sports is a wild card. Like, yeah, the stadium's going to be the stadium, but you never know what a game's going to be like. So
yeah, but that's no different when you go to a home game, though.
Yeah, so it could be a complete dud.
Right.
And that's exactly what the entire weekend was for us. And
did they get shut out Saturday?
They did get shut out Saturday.
Oh, okay. I thought it was 5-3 or something like that, but so they were shut out.
On top of that, Emily got a little under the weather on the trip, so that compounded the miserableness of the trip in the games.
Wow.
So it's been, it wasn't. Well, you go on a vacation to relax, and I felt like that was like the last thing that happened on this trip. So,
well, and then definitely capping it off with that Bears game yesterday. That was an abomination.
Yeah, I think I drove with road rage. I drove both ways because Emily wasn't feeling sick, and it's our car. And God bless my dad, who's probably listening, but his driving sometimes on road trips with he's got a heavy foot. He's a heavy breaker. So he drove a little bit on the way home because I needed a break. But I wanted to do most of the heavy lifting plus it's our car, like you drive your own car and all that. So I was like road raging at home. I mean, I'm going like 85, 90 on the highway, and I'm just like, get me the heck home, like get out of this godforsaken city of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Like, it was, and then I come home and I see the Packers and Rodgers pull it out of his hat. So I'm even more mad.
Well, and if you think about it, one of your favorite teams, the Chicago Bulls, one of the former players told you about Cleveland, right? You never who goes to Cleveland on vacation?
Yeah.
So Joakim Noah was right about that.
That's another thing that happened this weekend. Patrick Williams out 4 to 6 weeks with an
how about that? Let's more great news.
Let's just keep throwing gasoline onto the fire, and that's what I felt like. I felt like yesterday was one of the worst days in Chicago sports in 2021. I think, and it was all the Bears, but that was a terrible day.
Yeah.
Yesterday you were looking forward to it so much. Maybe we'll just segue into the Bears now. You were looking forward to it so freaking much, and it ended up being the worst Bear game in at least 7 years. I think back to the last year of Trestman when they lost those 2 games in a row, 40-0 or whatever it was.
It was bad. Tony can't even talk about it right now. He doesn't want to get his blood pressure up, but we're going to go there anyways, Tony.
But it was just that was the worst offensive football game I ever remember watching for the Bears, ever. And
Yeah.
my dad, who's seen a lot more Bears than I have, said the same thing. So that's really saying something because we have seen some abysmal offense on the Bears over the years, and for that to be the worst, that's a big thing to say.
Right. No, but it really was. I mean, and again, I'm not going to pretend that I watched the game because I was working yesterday and I taped it. I told you I taped it, recorded it, I should say. But as far as going back and watching it, I had no desire to watch it. I mean, from you being there with a firsthand account, from all the reporters tweeting about it and everyone else who watched it, why would I want to put myself through it? I read the box score, I saw the stats. That almost tells the story, and maybe not even as bad as it was. Or, it's just, it's what is it like? They haven't had a performance like that from a yardage standpoint, offensive, like 40 years. So it's like epic level bad.
I believe it was 1980 in a game versus the Lions where they had negative 22 net passing yards.
Wow.
Leading offensive player in that game for the Lions was Billy Sims. So that tells you how long ago that was.
Man, oh man, yeah.
But no, it was awful. So kudos to you for not watching it. You probably did the smart thing.
I think so.
And shout out to the Scarlet Hawks, what you're doing over there. I go every time I see an article now, they win. Like every sport, they're just winning. So
it's been impressive. The volleyball team is on a great run right now. Tennis has been doing well. Women's soccer has been doing well. They've had a couple bumps in the road recently. Men's soccer's kind of been up and down, but it's been some good stuff. Cross country, yeah. So there's a lot of good stuff, but definitely women's volleyball and women's tennis have been kind of leading the way. It's been a good run. It's been good to put out those posts too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So you were watching winners yesterday. So that's where you should have been. So that's great. From a Bears standpoint, this to me, like, did Justin Fields play well? Of course he didn't. Like, of course he was bad. He was really bad. He looked as much like a rookie as I've ever seen a player look like a rookie, like in their career. Like, it was very clear as day that for that moment in that offense, well, he was not ready. But again, it was like what they asked him to do yesterday would be like, I told my dad this in the stands. It's the equivalent to if you took Juan Pierre and put him up there against a Roldis Chapman and ask him to swing for the fences every time. Like, of course he's going to fail.
Right.
Like, you're taking a quarterback who didn't play in a pro-style system in college and whose biggest strength is his legs and his playmaking ability outside of the pocket, and you put him there behind a terrible offensive line against a defensive line that's got all pros all over the place, didn't do any chipping with the tight ends, any chipping with the receivers, any chipping with anybody, made him stand back there and read the defense behind an offensive line that was just getting bull rushed every play.
Right.
And you didn't move the pocket. You didn't do anything to get him in, to get him out, get him into space. It was honestly, it felt like calculated and malpractice.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing. A lot of people think it was almost Nagy set him up to fail on purpose. But I'm trying to understand the motive behind that. Why would he do that? Because he is tied to the success of Justin Fields.
I think it's, I think the reason why I say that maybe it's calculated because I can't imagine anybody in their right mind making a game plan like that, thinking that was the best possible thing to do.
Yeah, but remember who we're talking about here. We're talking about this guy. The guy who's all about his scheme, his offense, and he loves play calling. That's his favorite part of the job. And he thinks he can scheme his way to victories instead of just letting, focusing on the putting a plan together for the talent that's on the field.
I think possibly there's one thing we've learned about Matt Nagy, and it became more clear than it ever did yesterday, that he has a gigantic, ginormous ego. He might be a nice guy, but that doesn't mean you can't have a big ego.
Right.
And he has been so stuck in the mud that I'm going to play Dalton and Fields isn't ready, that to me, maybe he was just wanting to be like, see, I told you so, the kid's not ready. Like,
yeah, but I get back to that. What does he have to gain by doing that? This isn't like if it was Ryan Pace telling him to do that, I can see that, but I can't see that.
Nothing, but maybe in his mind, he does have something to gain. And the thing he has to gain is that he was right. Maybe. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm just throwing it out. This guy,
if it's not clear after yesterday, because everyone going into the season, a lot of the so-called media experts, Pace and Nagy, they're on safe ground. No matter what happens this year, they're on safe ground. We're 3 games in. I can't say that about Nagy, and I'm sure can't say that about Ryan Pace, because of the position he's left the offensive line in and other positions, and how he mismanages the salary cap. So, how does it go from like beginning of the season, these guys are safe, to 3 games in, it's potentially both could be gone at the end of the year.
Not only did that boat, the Nagy and Pace are safe boat. Not only did that boat set sail yesterday, they hoisted the anchor, they attached a 300 horsepower engine to it, and they full throttled it and went straight out into Lake Erie to never to be seen again. Like, that game, that was you look back as that's the tipping point, you got fired game. Like, that's what that felt like. And it gets a heck of a lot different for your owner, for ownership, when the noise gets really, really loud nationally. Like, what the hell are you doing?
Right.
Because there's been a local what the hell are you doing for a while now, right?
Right.
And, I think sometimes, owners like, it's fans being fans, people being people, they're trying something to complain about in Chicago, But remember, the shoe dropped with Trustman when he started to get mocked nationally.
Yeah.
After those 2 games that were blown out. And if you turn on, pick your show, pick your radio program, pick your TV program about football today, this morning, you heard the Bears, Nagy, Pace getting blasted by anybody who had a voice.
As they should.
So that's when things changed for ownership.
You don't even have to go that far back. Remember during the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game?
That's just exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah, I mean, that I think was an impetus for a lot of the movement that happened with the Bulls.
So if this continues...
And I used the word impetus, so.
There you go. If this continues, then he's gone. And it's only week 3. Like, I am at the point now, we'll see what happens. They got Detroit this week, then they got a bunch of tough games after that. We'll see what happens here. But I would not be – if they continue to look anything close to what they looked like yesterday, he's not going to make it through the season. Like, they're going to have to do something. And the Bears have never done that before.
They've never done that, yeah.
But it may
quick, I want to give a shout-out to Kelly Christopher. Kelly is first time checking on our show, I believe. So this is cool, but I guess she had a friend who also went out to Cleveland there with her boyfriend, and they wanted to visit every stadium, and that included the last game as the Indians. Well, the stadium's not changing. They'll be the Guardians, so I don't know if it matters like what the team name was, but it is cool to make those road trips.
Speaking of Guardians, I'm glad Kelly brought that up because I forgot to mention that about this trip. One of the funniest things on the trip, when they had a fireworks show Saturday night, and during the fireworks show, they're putting up season highlights and stuff on the scoreboard. And one of the things they put up was when they unveiled the name Guardians during the fireworks show. And you would have thought they put up a picture of Bin Laden. They got booed so loud. I couldn't believe it. I was walking out, we were walking out, and I was talking to some Indians fans around me while we were like waiting to like exit the stadium, and I was like, boy, you guys really don't like that, do you? And a lot of them were just like, no. And people thought they should have just years ago just changed it to the tribe, and this all would have been over with. And like, so, but it was just, it was hilarious. It was.
Would they have been happier if it was the Spiders?
I don't know, but boy, it was. I mean, seriously, it would be like if you went to a Bear game and they put up a Rogers logo, a Rogers logo. Like it was Man. It was that emphatic of a boo. Like it was so, it was crazy.
Well, you didn't get home. By the way, speaking of Rogers, you did not get home in time to watch that game, right? You were still on the road.
I saw the end. I saw the fourth.
You did?
Yeah.
So when it was 37 seconds left, I was like, this doesn't feel good. It's like even if 10 seconds are left, it doesn't feel good with that guy. It's got to be quadruple zeros.
I mean, here I have a problem with the football gods. Like, where's the karma? Like, this guy sits out, cries all off season, whether you want to argue whether that it was warranted or not. This guy sits out, cries all off season, throws a fit, then comes back and is still like the best player, one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And here we have a guy who says everything right, does everything right.
Yeah.
Everyone loves him. Everyone thinks he's going to be great. And he has like the worst game I've ever seen from a rookie.
Yeah.
Like, where is the – like, come on.
Well, you're talking Bears quarterback karma. There isn't any. And you're right, Tony. We do have the rights to the tribe. Nagy was a shiny penny, and now he is going to ruin another wasted year of Bears football. Well, I don't know if you can ruin a wasted year, but you will waste another year for sure. Yeah. But, yeah, I agree. I mean, and the defense is somewhat coming around. They were just gassed yesterday. I mean, it was 3-3 before 2 minutes left in the half. So they were doing their job, but you know they just couldn't keep going to the well like that. If you get nothing from your offense, it's you get what you get.
Yeah, Olin Kreutz was really quick to say, let's not throw bouquets of roses, as you would say, at the defense's feet because they let up 400 yards. But I agree with you 100%. That was more than half of those yards probably came in the fourth quarter when, they were just gassed. Yeah. And Cleveland is a very good offensive football team. And the way they play offense is designed so you're really worn down in the fourth quarter. And, but the Bears, if the Bears offense would have done anything to hold on to a ball for 5 minutes in that game, then maybe the defense isn't that worn down at the end, and they're more apt to stop what Cleveland's doing. And kudos to Sean Desai. I think he's done a really great job since week one. We came on here week one and we said, there was a lot of miscues. It was pretty vanilla. We didn't really like what they did. These last 2 weeks, Sean Desai I thought he's called great games, and he's found ways to get pressure up front. That was a really good Browns offensive line they played against yesterday, and would they have 4 sacks? 4 or 5 sacks?
Yep.
He's found a way to unlock Robert Quinn, who's playing great. The team has some deficiencies, like with Duke Shelley at the nickel and some other things, but he's found a way to mask those pretty well with the way he's.
Yeah, those are personnel issues. That's Ryan Pace issues. That's not Sean Desai issues.
Yeah,
like you said, doing the best with what he has.
Yeah, he's found a way to really mask those deficiencies well. I didn't notice Shelley getting picked on nearly as much yesterday as I did last week. Yeah. And every time I did, it was because they moved Odell Beckham in the slot. So I thought Desai had a great game. I'm really confident in his ability. I think he's probably, by default, the best coach on their team. And he's coaching his 3rd game in the NFL as the coordinator. So what does that tell you about the rest of the staff? If the best coach on the team is the guy who coaches 3rd game as coordinator.
So let's get back to it. And I think you even brought it up. Matt Nagy, is it time to go? And I think the answer is a resounding yes. It's his stubbornness and his just like blind commitment to his offense, his vision of this offense, and forcing people into it as opposed to devising the offense to fit around the talent that's out there. And whether we think it was manipulated yesterday that he forced Justin Fields to play the Andy Dalton offense for a see what I told you, or he really truly believes he needs his quarterbacks to execute his offense. Either way, it's just as bad. And we're in year 4 with him. And he's regressing after about maybe 3/4 of the way through the 2018 season. It's like the league figured him out, and he has not been able to adjust at all. And he'll have the random good game here and there, but that's usually when they're doing bum slaying, And quite frankly, there aren't a lot of whole bums to slay on the Bears' schedule that you could say those are worse teams than the Bears. I'm still trying to figure out how they beat the Bengals.
Yeah. No, I have, I'm in this group chat with like 11 or 12 buddies, and one of the
group
buddies,
chat or group therapy at this point?
It's a little bit of both. One of my buddies is like, "Oh, at least we play the Lions next week. They're so bad." And I'm just like, "What do you think the Lions are saying?"
Yes,
the Lions are saying, "Oh, this is our first win on the schedule. We could beat the Bears." You kidding?
Yeah.
Like, so like they're going to come out ready to go. And the Lions' problem has not been they haven't been ready to play. The Lions have played everybody pretty tough.
Right.
Like they're playing. The Lions have honestly, if it's possible for you to be a fun watch at 0-3, that's what they've been. Like they haven't been a bad watch. Like they've been okay. So
no, they've been in every game, even though they came back late in that game against who was it? The San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
But they should have beat Baltimore yesterday, save for that ridiculous field goal.
Yeah.
And then the week before, I forget who that was. Who was it? Arizona?
It was Green Bay.
Green Bay, right?
With Green Bay for about 40 minutes.
Yeah. And then Aaron Rodgers did Aaron Rodgers things, and so you kind of knew that. But you're right. Campbell has them playing tough. I'm not buying this whole bite your kneecap thing and whatnot, but he does have them playing. Now, they need to get a win soon to keep that up, because otherwise then they'll tune out the voices, the players will. So, and exactly what you said, they're looking at this game as the opportunity to get off the schneid, and the Bears players and the Bears coaching staff can't be thinking this is their opportunity to get better, because they haven't earned that. They have to earn it on Sunday.
100%.
Yeah, because it is any given Sunday. It really is. It's just unless maybe you're the Giants, but this game is no given for the Bears. I don't even know. I think they're favored like 4.5 or something like that. I even find that surprising.
No, 100%. You look at after the Lions, Raiders, Packers, Bucks, 49ers, Steelers,
loss.
Then Baltimore,
loss.
So, their next possible win after Detroit might be Detroit.
Right. And even then, that's no guarantee. It's the Thanksgiving Day game, right?
Yeah. They will not win. They will if the game plan and the scheme is what it was yesterday.
Yeah.
They will not win a game the rest of the year. There is no chance they'll win a game the rest of the year. Zero.
You know what? And we brought up things. Part of me wants to go to that game, but I don't know how bad the Bears will be. That if I make the commitment now and then they lose all those games leading up to it, I'll be like, why did I do this?
Yeah.
They
won't win a game the rest of the year with that scheme. They won't.
No, they won't. No, they won't.
They are not capable of, their personnel is not capable of holding up 5 on, our 5 is going to block everybody. They're not capable of doing that. Justin Fields, with where he's at in his career, if he's going to keep starting, he is not capable of running a scheme like that at this point in time.
Well, so then do you think Nagy would go back to Dalton, assuming he's healthy?
Yeah, I think he's going to.
Okay.
And you heard him say today, all 3 quarterbacks are on the table. I mean, I don't know how much I buy that, because
how is Nick Foles on the table?
I don't know. So he said that today. I think that was more tongue in cheek with him saying like we're leaving no stone unturned to fix our offense and all of that stuff. And he mentioned today he may give up play calling.
Yes, please.
Yes, please. Let's see if he does that. But we'll have to see. Mark won't like me saying this because him and I had a big argument about this. Mark, they may have already happened. Like
the Cincinnati game?
Yeah, they might have already happened. Like
right.
they may have already won the game they have no business winning.
Well, and then you kind of go back, like then the Bengals turned around and beat the Steelers, and you're trying to figure out how did the Steelers beat Buffalo in Buffalo?
Yeah, I mean, Mark's right.
That's what it means.
Yeah, the NFL is wonky, like it is.
Yeah,
but I think Nagy might be. Yesterday's game plan is wonky proof. Like they're not winning. They're not winning with that. Whatever they did yesterday.
Yeah,
they're not winning if they run anything close to a semblance of that. They're not winning the game. It won't happen. Maybe if Dalton's quarterback in that scheme and they play like maybe they play Detroit, that would be like the only way they win a game with what they did. Dalton would have died yesterday too. Like it didn't matter who it would have been. Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have won that game yesterday. Like there's no way. There's no quarterback on the planet would have succeeded with what they did yesterday. Not one.
Yeah, it's so getting back to the question, it really is time for Nagy to go. I mean, without a doubt, the problem is, are they both tied at the hip? Like would McCaskey's let them both go, which they should, because we can't keep getting into this. The GM has to live with the coach, that type of thing where they're not in sequence. It needs to be a fresh start, where everyone's gone and the GM hires his own coach and Ernie Accorsi isn't invited to the party or anything like that. But he has to go. I think the only thing that could save him right now is if he gives up the play calling duties. Bill Lazor simplifies the offense and tailors it to Justin Fields or whoever's going to be quarterbacking, and you get away from this scheme and they win some games. That would be the only way to do it, because I do think he's a good leader in terms of the leader of the men in the locker room and that type of thing, motivation and focus. But then he gets lost in his play calling world, and then he just loses it, so that's the only way he can save his job, and he's got to give up those play calling duties like today.
Yeah. If you look at last year, I want to say the switch happened at the bye.
Yeah.
And here's the yardage totals from the 6 games after the bye with Lazor calling the plays. 350, 389, 410, 397, 391, 356. And then in the playoff game, it was 239. But remember, there was rumblings in the playoff game that Nagy took the play calling back before that game.
Right, yeah.
So, and then you look at the offensive numbers from earlier in that year, and then this year, 322, 206, 47. So, like, the proof is in the pudding at this point.
And the 206 was in a win.
Yeah. And granted, the Bears did not play a bunch of great defenses at the end of last season. They had, the Lions were in there, Texans were in there, Jaguars were in there. But so what? They still moved the ball.
Right.
And they still ran a scheme the last 6 weeks of last season. They ran a scheme that fit the quarterback.
Yeah, and it felt like they had a plan. It felt like there was some consistency to what they were trying to do, or an identity. When he's involved with the play calling, there is no team identity. It's, all right, what can I pull out of my magic bag to fool the defense, which I never do.
If they ran what they ran the last 6 weeks of last season, if they ran that starting next week with Justin Fields at quarterback, there is no doubt in my mind that they will be better offensively than they were at the end of last season, because I think Justin Fields is going to be better than Mitch Trubisky.
Yeah.
Like, he throws a better ball. He's got a better head on his shoulders. He's not as frantic. Like, I think that 100% would happen. So that's the like you said, that's the most confusing part about this whole thing. It's because how can Matt Nagy look at this and do what he did yesterday? Like, how does it benefit him in any way to stick to his scheme? It doesn't benefit him at all. Like, it doesn't.
Well, it goes back to you think that his ego.
Yeah,
he can't get past his own self.
That's the only answer to that. That's the only somewhat logical answer to that question.
Yeah,
it's more important to him that his scheme succeeds than the team succeeds. Like, that is the only thing I keep coming back to. Is that it's more important to him that happens than if they win football games, which is awful, and that's a fireable offense. Like,
that's a good point, because let's say he is fired, whether it's in the season or at the end of the season. If another team is going to pick him up in what role? You're sure as hell not going to give him an offensive coordinator role. Prior to that, he was a quarterbacks coach. He did not develop Mitch Trubisky. And even though we're only 3 games in, he doesn't really seem to be interested in developing Justin Fields. So I don't think you'd hire him as a quarterbacks coach. So what would you hire him as? So that's why maybe that's where this ego is, where he's got to prove that the scheme fits, because if it doesn't work, or it works, because if it doesn't work for him here, how's he going to get another job? And I'm sure someone will hire him, but
does University of Delaware have an opening? he screams at this point. He screams college coach to me.
Like, yeah, I can see that.
He's a motivator. He'll probably be good with college kids.
Yeah,
he can get away with running maybe some of this stuff, spreading them out 5 wide. System type stuff. If he goes and recruits good offensive linemen, he'll probably be a good recruiter. He's charismatic. Like,
yeah,
you
might be right.
Yeah, to me, he seems like he'd probably be a pretty halfway decent college coach. Like,
yeah, was he ever a college assistant?
He was not. No.
See, that's tough to then. You got to be in the recruiting mode. You got to build a staff too. But yeah. I think you're right. From that standpoint, that might be his best. But that's, neither here nor there. That's for his future. I do have to say, though, if you're McDonald's, what were you thinking? I mean, like those commercials with Nagy.
And we keep saying the same thing.
Yeah. Like, who in that McDonald's boardroom were going, you know what we need as the face of our commercials in the Chicagoland area? Matt Nagy.
Yeah.
That's a winning call there.
Somebody who doesn't own a Twitter account made that decision.
Apparently. Oh my God. I was like, I keep seeing that commercial and like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, I throw stuff at the TV when he's on the screen during games and press conferences, and then you're gonna throw him in a commercial? Oh.
Well, yeah, hey, man. Thankfully, maybe that's where he'll end up. You asked for his next job.
It could be. It could at a drive-through window near me. Except he would be figuring out a way to devise a different system for McDonald's. It's like, no, wait a minute, we've been doing this for 70 years or however long they've been in business. No, I got a better way of doing it. You'll see.
Yeah, I mean they're never. I'm at the point now after seeing what I saw last week. Maybe this is an overreaction. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I don't think they'll ever be. Justin Fields is not going to develop properly with this regime. He won't develop into a good quarterback.
Agreed.
Nobody would.
Right.
Nobody would.
And when you say regime, it's the total package. Yeah. It's Pace and Nagy.
And that gets you thinking. And again, this ship has sailed, and this is revisionist history, and hindsight's always 20/20. But maybe this wasn't Mitch Trubisky's fault. Now we know, after seeing how he's been stubborn with not one, but now 2 young quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Maybe we now know that Mitch Trubisky did have a chance to be something.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it. I do think when I look at the 2 quarterbacks side by side, I look at the resumes, I look at how they look out of college. I think Justin Fields is better talent than.
Agreed.
Don't get me wrong. I think that to me, I just see it the way they both throw the football. And I remember how he looked as a rookie throwing the football. And but maybe Mitch Trubisky still has a chance to be something. And he's just where you land in this league really matters as a quarterback more than any other position. Where you land really, really matters.
Yeah.
And there is now a worse place, perhaps. Maybe there's some other worse ones out there. We don't have the perspective on every city. But to me, there is no worse place for a quarterback to land in the NFL than Chicago.
Yeah. It's like what Jim McMahon says. That's where quarterbacks go to die.
Yeah. And, we'll see what happens with this regime and this group and what they decide to do. But I have a feeling we're going to be having shows here down the stretch of the season where we're going over, okay, who's our top GM candidates? Who's our top head coach candidates? Who's developed a mobile quarterback that can come in and help lead the team? And I feel like we're probably going to be having those conversations on this show.
Yeah.
And I feel like those conversations have happened way too often in the last decade. This will be the third coaching change in a decade for the Bears. Lovie Smith was fired 9 years ago. That wasn't that long ago. Like, in the grand scheme of things, 9 years is not a long time to go through 4 coaches or however many we've gone through.
You go from Smith to Trestman to Fox to Nagy.
Yeah.
You have 3 GMs in that time period too.
The McCaskies, every night they go to sleep, you should thank God for 1985. Because if it wasn't for 1985, this would be one of the biggest jokes franchises in sports.
It would be. Yeah.
They're the Knicks of football, is what they are. They're the New York Knicks of the NFL.
Man, and I know it was a different era, but drafting and development of those 80s teams, I mean, even though they only won 1 Super Bowl, they had drafted so well. I mean, there's so many Hall of Famers on that team, and they could have won more, but that was putting together a team from the ground up, and the Bears just have not been able to do that. They've had flashes where they do well, but it's usually on one side of the ball. It's usually on defense. But when it comes to offense, aside from the occasional running back here or there, maybe an offensive lineman here or there, it's just we've been bankrupt on offense for years. And then we usually have to go out and sign free agents, and that's never the answer. You traded for Cutler, and that didn't work out for a variety of reasons. So now that's why it's so critical. Like you said, Justin Fields' development is the most important thing this year. And we don't have the right people in place to facilitate that.
Nothing was done yesterday to help develop Justin Fields. Not one thing was done in that game. The only thing I concluded about Justin Fields from that game is he's tough. That's the only thing I concluded. I mean, he absolutely got massacred, and he kept getting up, and nothing was wrong. He was fine, and just kept playing football. I learned he's tough. That's the only thing I learned yesterday, and I feel like he kind of knew that already. But there wasn't anything you drew from that game that gave you any sort of answers on Justin Fields, the quarterback. Not one thing was done in that football game for his development.
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. I agree with that 100%. It was just, oh, man, it's so frustrating. All right, before we move off the Bears, Bears-Lions this coming week, who you got? What are you thinking? What's your score?
I feel like I need some time to
get
all my Bear. I'm still blinded with rage at this point. It hasn't settled down yet.
Yeah.
So
it's hard to make a call because we don't know who's quarterbacking, who's calling plays. In this moment, I'm going to tell you the Bears are going to lose just because where I'm at emotionally, and I understand it's a dangerous place to be. So, but if you put me on the spot, like Mark said, this is the NFL, and the Bears have more talent than the Lions. So I'm gonna say the Bears, but I'm gonna say the Bears went on a last-second field goal or some corny thing. But I can tell you, would love that.
I could tell you one thing: if we again, if they trot Justin Fields out there with the same scheme, they will not win that game, and they will lose, and they will lose handily.
Yeah, I agree.
They will lose 20-3 or something like that if that's what happens.
Yeah, it'll be pretty awful without a doubt. All right, well, let's move on to White Sox time. So,
who do you got?
I'm sorry. I have the Lions. I have the Lions winning, and I think it'll be 24-12. Like maybe a safety or like 4 field goals in there. I have no confidence in that Bears team at all.
Is that why you're wearing a Honolulu blue polo there in the office today? Or
well, first of all, I'm still waiting for all my tech garb to come in, so it's like they had to bring it out to the big man shop to like stitch all that together. So, so this is like one of my few rotational polos because on game days I'm wearing I have my all black breather shirt because I'm running around like a crazy man. So, but when there's no game days, I have like a stable of like 3 or 4 polos that I wear. So this is one of them. And no games tomorrow too. So I got to see what else I have in my closet.
There we go. Yeah. I mean, that side of your wardrobe is important. You got to dress for the, they say dress nice, but you got to dress for running around at the same time. So
right.
It's a tough balance. It's a tough balance to master. It took a couple of years. So.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, man, if you're a coach, like you can wear that garb all the time and stuff like that. But the SID is kind of like in between there.
Yeah.
It's like you got to be presentable, but at the same time, you're in an athletic environment. So, but yeah, it's all about comfort on game day, especially when we got multiple events like we will this Saturday. You know the drill.
Yeah.
It's like I have to have track shoes on and shirts that breathe.
100%.
And by Saturday, I'll have this, even though this looks short to the average viewer, for me, this is like I haven't had a haircut in a month. So I'm going to be getting this like finely cropped so it breathes nice because like when things go crazy, like my head, might as well be Buckingham Fountain here. All right. Well, now let's get to the White Sox playoff lineup. So, again, last week, do we want to like revisit the rotation real quick? Like, where are we at right now with the rotation? I think I agree with you.
So, yeah, I think Lance Lynn's last outing and Giolito's last outing. I'm getting a lot of I agree with you now after that. And Rodon, of course, with his injury situation, Tony seems to think it's a lot more serious than Rodon seems to think. And I guess we'll find out on Wednesday about that. So, but no, I'm still at Giolito, Rodon, Lynn, Cease. And I tell you what, I am not unconfident in Dylan Cease. I am, if he's out there pitching game 4, or if Rodon's hurt and he's out there pitching game 3, I'm like, let's go. We can win this game. Like, I think he's got the shutdown stuff. I feel like he's been more consistent in the second half. And I think he's, mentally, I think he's improved mentally as the season is going on.
He's my game 3 starter now.
Yeah. Oh, really?
So I would go Giolito, Lynn, Cease, and whatever version of Rodon, Kopech, whatever that's going to be.
Yeah.
Because again, Rodon isn't going to miraculously get healthy come playoff time. We're down to the last week. What is he tentatively slated to start Wednesday?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, we got to see what does he clock in with his fastball, because if he's still down into the mid to low 90s, trouble's brewing there. That does not bode well, because he was able to gas it up into the high 90s whenever he needed to. So that's what I think it is. For me, it's probably Giolito, Lynn, Cease, and then Rodon / Kopech, whoever, maybe Lope gets a toss. Yeah. No Keuchel, none of that.
Yeah. I mean, Lope's pitched himself into a playoff role, whether that's out of the bullpen or, God forbid, if Rodon can't make a start. Yeah. I would pitch Lope over Keuchel.
Yep. Agreed.
And again, I would not have, is that ideal? No. But I would not be like, oh boy, we got to start Lopez. Like, I would be like, okay, we might have he pitches like he did in the second half, we got a chance. If we threw Keuchel, I'd be like, whoa boy, Here we go. We'll see, but I think we're going to get some answers as to what he's thinking with how he lines up that Detroit series. I think, he may go his 1-2-3 all pitch in that Detroit series because they don't play until Thursday. So if you go Friday, Saturday, Sunday, you're 1-2-3 for the playoffs, then that puts them all at about a week's rest before their first playoff game. So I think you're going to see what he's thinking with the way he lines up that Detroit series at the end of the week.
Yep. All right. Well, let's get into the lineups now. So I had an opportunity to do this ahead of time. I didn't have an opportunity to get it from you. So I'm going to throw my lineup on the screen. We'll talk and debate, and then you'll give me your lineup. I'll edit it, and then I'll pop it up on the screen. But for simplicity's sake, I went with the jersey number, and this is what I came up with. I'm still pretty steadfast on having Moncada in the 2-hole. I like the fact that he's a switch hitter. I like having him in front of Abreu. Obviously, Anderson has to lead off. He is the table setter. But I've moved Luis Robert in back of Jose Abreu. I have him in the 4 spot, and then Grandal in the 5 spot, then Eloy, then I think 23 Sheets, right? So he's 23?
I believe he's 32.
Oh, 32? All right, I can edit that. We can do that.
At 23, Michael Jordan banned 7th for the Sox.
There we go. All right. 32 Sheets, Vaughn in left. So Sheets in right, Vaughn in left. Robert has to play like the entire outfield. And then I have Liuri Legend playing second base over Hernandez. I doubt Tony will do that, but that's who I'd prefer to see out there. So that's my lineup. What say you?
I'm surprised because I thought it was a little outside the box, but my top 6 are the same as you.
Really?
I think Luis Robert needs to be in that top 4 somewhere. Like he is way too on fire. Like he cannot, you can't bat him 5th or 6th. He has to be up.
Yeah.
Early. Like he needs to be in a spot where he's going to bat in the first inning. And I think him behind Abreu and sandwich between Abreu and Grandal is a great spot for him. I also like Eloy a little lower, hitting behind someone like Grandal, who's going to see a lot of pitches. That's going to help Eloy, who's got a little more of an aggressive approach early in the count. Right. I think him down there a little further, he may see a little more fastballs. So I think that's a really good way to do it. I can't believe I am saying this. I have Liuri after Eloy at this point.
Okay.
He's just continues to be not bad.
That's what the back of his baseball card says.
And again, it's another switch hitter. Like you sandwich Eloy between 2 switch hitters. It gives the other manager something to think about with lineups and whatnot. He can move. He'll do a thing like he'll move the runner over. Stuff like that.
Where is he playing?
I got him. I have him in right.
In right, okay.
And then 8th is lefty righty, Sheets / Vaughn, and 9 is Cesar. Cesar's been bad. There is no getting around the fact that he has been bad. I have some faith with him being a veteran that when the lights come on in October, he's going to produce. He's a much better player than what we have seen in the last 2 months. Like the back of the baseball card says he's a much better player than that. Like he has been a solid MLB second baseman for 7 or 8 seasons now.
Right.
Like I just have a hard time believing, and maybe it won't happen in October and you have to play the best guys. And if he's not hitting, then I think you need to make a change pretty quickly and play the guys who are hitting. Totally agreed. But I just have a hard time believing he's this is who he is, because he hasn't been this for his whole career. He's been a good hitter his whole career. Well,
I mean, he hasn't been a great hitter. He's now the power was something recent, and that's pretty much dissipated since he's been here. But he's been an okay hitter, not a great hitter, but he's been a great defender. And even some of his defense has been a little bit questionable since he's been over.
The defense has been the biggest mystery to me for him. But 270 career batting average, 345 career on base.
Is it 270?
Yep. So
and what's his OP on base?
345 career on base.
All right, that's better than I thought. I thought he was a little lower. I thought he was more like a 250, like 320 type.
So that's a solid dude.
That is, yeah.
So
that's
I
not
don't
the
know
dude we have, though.
It's not. And, you may have to go pivot to Lurie at second. And I think the key is that 8 spot, because you need someone of the Sheets, Vaughn, Engel group to really step up and make some contributions, because then Cesar doesn't matter as much. Then Lurie doesn't matter as much if one of those guys really step up and be productive.
Has Engel played since he's been back up?
Engel, I think, has played a little bit. I would like to see him get some more run here these last 5 games, because I think they're going to need him. They're going to need him in that outfield.
I'd like to know that he's going to be a viable option for the playoffs, and they have to find out now.
My dad mentions Billy 3 strikes. He's not going to be in the lineup. He's going to be this pinch runner / defensive replacement. Kudos to the White Sox for pulling out the Phantom IL one last time and throwing Brian Goodwin on there.
Goodwin?
They came out. They had to do the made-up injury one last time.
Would he get injured during the clinching celebration, or what happened?
I think a little too much champagne flew in his eyes.
Champagne in the eyes?
Yeah, he didn't have his goggles on all the way, apparently.
Yeah, so he got retina abrasion or something. Who knows?
So Brian Goodwin looks like he's the odd man out, and I had a feeling that was going to be the case.
Yeah.
With the way they'd been using Sheets and how he had been playing over Goodwin recently and whatnot. So it's going to be, that 7, 8, 9 is going to be pretty critical. I'm not, as a group, maybe one guy or 2 guys won't hit out of the group. I am not worried about the top 6. I think the top 6 are going to do their thing. Yeah. When the lights come on, I think they've been kind of pacing themselves, preparing for this moment. More than I am now. Tim Anderson has proven since the beginning of last season that whenever the lights are bright, he just produces. So I'm not worried about the top 6 in that lineup. It's the last 3 that, someone in that group has to really step up and have a big postseason if these guys are going to make it to the World Series.
And that's why I like your platoon of Sheets and Vaughn, depending upon if it's a righty or a lefty. I think that could really be, and those would be the 2 guys, because you could get a lot. They both have some pop. Vaughn theoretically should hit for a better average, but those are 2 guys that if you're looking for someone to jump out of that bottom 3 and I wasn't expecting run production from them, those would be the 2 guys that you would think. And then maybe Lurie in the mix there, because he's been around so long and he knows his role.
It would be very poetic if Lurie had a big postseason. And it would be, he's drawn the ire of a lot of Sox fans. Our buddy Mark, definitely probably the biggest one. But, it would be a really cool story if he was one of their playoff heroes. It really would be. And like it or not, he's been a big part of what they've done this year. He's and multiple times. He's hasn't been bad. He's gotten some key hits in some big spots, and has been a productive player. No matter
just think of all the injuries they've had this year and where he's been used, how many different positions he's played, and like you said, getting some key hits along the way there. It's just La Russa loves a player like that.
Did you see the press conference where was it Ryan McGuffey called him a utility player and La Russa chewed him out for
Chris? Oh yeah, as he should.
Don't you dare call him a utility player.
Right? Yeah, he's he set that tone straight for sure.
That was great. But someone from that group has to step up and be a hero if they're going to win postseason series.
Yeah,
and I think all of them have the ability and the talent to do it. Like Cesar Hernandez has as bad as he's been, has the ability and the talent to be very productive for a stretch in October. 25 or 32 have the ability.
Yeah.
The one who I think probably has the least ability is Leori, who ironically has been the best out of all of those guys. So
right.
It's but it's going to be interesting, but it's it's one of those things where at this point we're talking about it so much, and you just can't wait for it to get here. Like, these last couple weeks have been such a slow, boring end to the Sox season because we're all just looking forward to October 6th or whatever that day is.
Yeah, it really is. Like they're home this week, right?
Yep.
They have a home game tomorrow. I'll be working here tomorrow. I'm tempted to go there, but I'm also like, what am I going to watch? What's the motivation level of the team? So it's like I have a hard time going to but now, granted, I've gone to Sox games when they've been bad, so it's like no different, but it feels different. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, they've got things wrapped up. There's a pause before the real games resume for the Sox. So what am I going to watch? And then it's like, you're going to go to a ball game, you stupid idiot. Why not? So it's like I'm torn between that. I'll probably lean on going, but it's like, it's first world problems. I'd rather be in this position of the team doesn't have anything to play for because they've already clinched than the team doesn't have anything to play for because they're 25 games out of first place.
Yeah. It's 100%. I'm going tomorrow with my dad.
Are you really? Okay.
Yeah, so it'll be
because the one thing you guys haven't done is gone to a ball game anytime recently.
Yeah, no, for sure. But I am but it's kind of one of those things like you said, like what is there to watch? It's Ronaldo is going tomorrow.
Okay.
I guess what you could take away is, the Reds are not a bad team. It's a pretty decent team, so it is a little bit of a playoff tune-up for them, I feel like. And, they're going to face a good lineup. It's a good tune-up for Lopez pitching-wise. Rodon's going tomorrow night or Wednesday night, I should say. So it's a good tune-up for him and his health. But, it does feel feels a little hollow for sure.
Yeah.
But everything.
So they have the Reds for what, 2 games?
They have the Reds for 2, and then they close it out Friday, Saturday, Sunday with Detroit, which got a little more interesting after the top of the 9th inning today.
So what happened?
So you haven't seen any of this, huh?
No.
Nothing on Twitter or anything. So 0-2 count. Jose Abreu gets hit. Not intentional. It's 0-2 count. It's 8-7. So not an intentional thing at all. Jose Abreu has been hit more than anybody in humanity since May. As we've seen him get pegged a zillion times. So he stands there, wears it a little bit, shakes it off, got a big welt on his elbow,
again.
And so he stays in the game at first base. Then the first pitch to Grandal in the dirt, Abreu takes off for second, hard slide into Goodrum.
Really?
Hard slide, not a high slide, but a hard slide, I'm going to take you out type slide.
Yeah.
And Goodrum gets up, has a little problem with it. Abreu gets the most mad he has ever got in a White Sox uniform. And just starts barking and starts pointing and yelling, and everyone everyone comes and meets at second base and let's all act tough without being tough. One of those things, typical baseball fight. So Abreu didn't get ejected. Nobody got ejected other than Miguel Cairo. But it was definitely interesting.
Wow. He's had enough. He's had it with being hit.
Yes. And the real MVPs of the whole scenario, and I'm sure you're going to go watch this now, but Gavin Sheets and Aloy Aloy was in the area, and Sheets came and ran from the bench, grabbed Abreu and restrained him because Abreu was ready to go after. He was going to go after whoever it was. The pitcher was Alex Lang. He was yelling.
Right.
Abreu was trying to get away from him and go after these guys. And Sheets and Eloy have the presence of mind to take their big leader, hold him back, and it's what waits you see. Sheets is like holding him like he's a sack of potatoes. Like he's like,
really,
yeah. And so, and
Sheets is a big boy.
And Benetti and Stone were raving for 2 minutes about how, Gavin. That's a big moment. That tells you a lot about Gavin Sheets and who he is as a young player, to have that presence of mind and that ability and that respect in the locker room to do something like that. Because not just anybody has the license to go hold Abreu, like in the situation. So it was a very, very interesting ninth inning to that game.
Oh man, I definitely got to see that.
And then Liam Hendricks came in, got the save, and was more amped up than he usually is which is he's usually really amped up.
He didn't hit anyone, did he?
No. So in a way, like it almost feels like, I'm sure this was, well, obviously, I think Abreu's frustration just bubbled over from months and months of being hit, and he's led baseball in hit by pitches. I saw a stat that he's like third in the MLB in hit by pitch, but he didn't get hit at all in the month of April. So from May on, he leads the league in hit by pitch, and he's obviously just frustrated by that for whatever the reason is, and the frustration just boiled over on Alex Lang and Nico Goodrum. So, but part of me wonders, like, this gives them a sense of motivation and something to play for a little bit the last 5 days of the season. And what we're talking about, like, what is the point of watching the Sox right now? Because there isn't anything to play for. If the Sox can grab onto anything these last 5 days to help them build some momentum heading into October, that could only be viewed as a good thing.
Yeah.
I'm almost happy that happened. Like, and thank goodness that Sheets and Eloy probably helped avoid an Abreu suspension.
Yeah.
But given that fact, I'm almost happy that this happened, because I feel like the Sox are going to come out this weekend, and maybe even if it's like a internally created false sense of like a rivalry, I'm sure they're going to come out and be like, all right, let's try to stick it to the Tigers.
Is it Detroit this weekend then?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
So I'm sure they're going to come out and be like, let's try and wipe the floor with Detroit and stick it to them. So at least, like, it gives them something to internally play for right now, which I think is something they need. So,
maybe I'll go to the Sunday game. I don't know. I think they'll be resting everyone on that Sunday.
Well, plus you don't have to watch the Bears. You go on Sunday.
Well, that's true too. It's like I was looking. I don't have any IAT stuff on Saturday, Sunday, but Friday night at volleyball, and then Saturday we got 2 soccer and volleyball all day. So, maybe I'll just go Tuesday to see the Reds, and that'll be my final appearance at the G rate there.
Yeah,
we got fall into some playoff tickets.
So of course we, thanks to StubHub, we got a couple of. I think Marty's going to both ALDS, and 1 CS, and I'm going to 1 ALDS, and I'm going to 1 CS. I stopped short of that. I wanted to get World Series tickets, and then I looked at StubHub and no longer wanted to get World Series tickets. So, one day when I have more money and the ability to do so, then maybe. But, hope they got to get there first. So
yes, they do. Yes, they do. So, all right. So this is, again, your lineup. You got Timmy Anderson, Moncada, Abreu, Roberts, Grandal, Jimenez, Leary Legend, and then you have either Sheets or Vaughn, depending upon righty or lefty, and then Hernandez. And then I have, again, as you mentioned, the same top 6. And then I have Sheets, Vaughn, or Vaughn Sheets, depending upon righty or lefty, and then going with Leary Legend. Now, what will probably happen, though, is if it's a lefty, Tony wouldn't put Sheets out there. So you're probably right. I think those two might be interchangeable, and then Leary and Wright. So probably your lineup feels more like what Tony would do, although this is what I'd like to do. I'd like to get Vaughn and Sheets past the righty lefty mix and match. But probably in the playoffs, that's not the time to like start that.
I think if we want to bench Hernandez, which I totally understand, I think in your situation is where Adam Engel has to factor in. Maybe Engel spelling sheets versus the lefties is where he plays in. So I think in that situation, Engel plays a part somehow.
Yeah. His whole season's been so incomplete that, like, if it was last year and how he performed in the Oakland series, I'd love to have Engel in there, but you don't know what you have in him.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Playoff baseball is so, and I was talking about this weekend with my parents. Like, playoff baseball can erase a lot of things that you remember from the rest of the season.
Right.
Like, Adam Engel can go out there and hit 2 home runs and be a big part of them making the ALCS for the World Series, and no one's going to remember the fact that he barely played.
Right.
Like, you know who sucked in 2005? El Duque. He sucked.
Yeah.
He had an ERA over 5. He was like, I remember he was abysmal down the stretch of the season, and nobody remembers that because of 1 inning.
One inning. One magical inning in Boston.
Yes. So, I mean, and kudos, I'm not trying to, like, poo-poo on Orlando Hernandez. Like, obviously, huge part in Sox history that we'll always remember and always cherish. But nobody but that just shows the fact of the impact you can have in October. Like, Craig Kimbrell, if Craig Kimbrell dominates in October, no one's going to remember that he sucked for 3 months.
Yeah. Well, it's like Jeff Blum doesn't have to pay for any meal in this town ever. At least if it's on south of, on the south side, he doesn't.
He had 200 in the 2 months with the team.
Right. Yeah.
So it doesn't. This is where the Sox, the folk heroes really become a thing.
Yeah.
And all of these guys who you might not be super happy with at the moment, like October, you erase chalkboard and it's clean. Like, so it's, you never know what can happen in playoff baseball. Like, you never have any idea.
No, you don't. You really don't. All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode. Our next show will be coming up next Monday at 6:30 p.m. As far as I know, I don't have anything on Mondays other than our show. That's what we have. So other than that, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, for the comments. Appreciate that from everyone there, especially Marty and Mark, Tony, Kelly, Christopher checking in too. That was cool. Other than that, we will see you guys next Monday. Thanks for tuning in.